I think the thing that's probably shocked us the most has been, one, getting people to understand and actually talk about what one could argue is truly the least sexy product on the planet, telco services, and talk about them in public and actually start to get educated about what a megabit is and what a gigabit is. It's shocking to me how many people really don't understand that, and we in technology kind of take that for granted. So I'd say first, it's really the consciousness around what the importance of broadband and what it means to people, and what having choice frankly means. That you do need to get educated if you want to choose between various providers. That's a little bit new for the US, I'd say. The second has been the economic impact. I think we've been really, really surprised broadly at everything from a debt rating for the city going up, all the way through to the startups and entrepreneurship that we're seeing out there. And I see it at the grassroots level with entrepreneurs that are moving into Kansas City, to Austin, et cetera, and Provo, to take advantage of the fact that there are a critical mass of consumers that actually have high-speed broadband connectivity, but also to take advantage of the scene. So I think we've been really excited about that. And on one end, again, I mentioned the startups, but on the other end, you have large companies that have made significant investments in building out lab environments, to really start experimenting with that. I spoke with 8 area hospitals around telemedicine. And so you have a lot of these situations where when you have a new kind of capability, you need it's the chicken and egg problem. Critical mass of users, and then you see a lot of businesses that are now making the investments to take advantage of that. And I think we're in the early days, so we're excited. Let me take a big step back. I don't know if you guys have heard about moonshots. There's been a lot of talk in the press around moonshots, and Larry Page, our CEO, has been pushing on that. The most interesting thing about a moonshot, and by the way, for context, at Google, we'd like to talk a lot about solving really, really hard problems. And for us at Google, it's really about not looking for the 5 or 10% incremental improvements, but really going after the 10x, 100x set of opportunities out there. And the coolest thing about moonshots is that when we put the byproduct of putting men on the moon. If you don't listen to the conspiracy theorists, we actually did go to the moon. But the benefit of putting men on the moon was that we generated a whole ecosystem of second-order impacts. From weather satellites, defibrillators, plastics, and rubber, all the way through the chain. There are all kinds of products that came out as a result of that. Solving this hard problem of internet access for both gigabit speeds, high speed, as well as ubiquitous access, generates those sort of second-order impacts. And the great thing about it is we have no idea what will happen. But what we do know is this: speed does matter. Users are up against the limits of that today, and history is on our side. I mean, the last time we saw a 100x improvement, step function change in access speeds, we saw an entire set of industries get created. And we're seeing early evidence of that today with all the energy and the types of applications that we're seeing. But again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When people talk about the need for new networks and new infrastructure, people have gotten hung up on 2 issues, I think. One, is there demand for it? And I think we clearly are seeing that there is demand and users do want higher speeds. We talked about that earlier today. The second half of that is it's not easy to build these networks. And if cities and governments actually want to encourage new entrants and new infrastructure investment, there are a number of things that they have to do and really do need to do right. And that can make it a lot easier and a lot more effective. And I alluded to a couple of those issues that we at Google Fiber have seen. We simply need to be able to get access to poles and conduit. And as I mentioned, it really doesn't make any sense for us to put a new pole next to an old pole, right? Or dig up a road unnecessarily when there is actually conduit underneath. And for this, it's really the ability to get access to these and an ability to pay a fair market price for them. I alluded to a series of other sort of steps along the way, including good, clean maps, because when you are putting infrastructure in the ground, you need to know what else is there. Permitting, the ability to handle the volume and be able to scale up. So these are the kinds of things that we encourage cities to focus on. And equally, I think that you asked about the impact that what we're seeing today is, I think it's been wonderful. We have seen a tremendous amount of interest in this topic, and it all starts with the dialogue. And I think we had mentioned that there are some certain papers out there that have targeted how cities can be more fiber friendly. I'd urge people to go to the Fiber to the Home Council. They published a recent report, and I think it's a good starting point. And I think somebody had asked earlier in the crowd today, you know, about the pace of our build. I mean, when we start a build, we want to be very aggressive in speed and to be able to build it very quickly and efficiently. And I think we're not alone in saying that. And so we really do want to spend a lot of time up front with cities to make sure that when you say, it's one thing to say, oh, I want fiber in my city, but you have to understand that there are actual real implications and things that you have to get done to enable us or other people to do those kind of builds. I'd say first and foremost, Google has always been about moving the web forward. And from our standpoint, in this case, it's really about increasing speed and making broadband more affordable. And for us, by the way, just to be more specific, it's really about that step function improvement in speed, not so much the incremental, shifts that you'd see. In terms of what we've seen in the market, I think it's been outstanding in the last couple of years. There are other providers that have popped up in various parts of the country that are offering gigabit services to their consumers, which I think is fantastic. And then secondly, even in fiber markets, I think we've seen competition sort of increase speeds and lower prices. And I think it's great because I think if you go back just a few months ago, half a year, you would have seen the same providers argue that consumers don't want it, they don't want to pay for it, and they don't need it. And I think that about face, if you will, has been really positive, and I think will only help move the U.S. forward. I think equally we're really excited about the initiatives that we see worldwide, in Europe, in various parts of Asia. This is about moving the entire web forward, and in our fiber cities, it's really around our ability to engage and get critical masses of users together connected. And clearly, as we think about the issues globally, there are very few events that we can come to where we have an opportunity to speak with thought leaders and key influencers and really sort of share some of our learnings and our experiences as well, and obviously learn from a lot of others. And so this is a great forum for that, and we're really excited to be here.